Hi, I'm Cindi McGee, and you're watching Polymer Clay TV. Today's veneer is inspired by this beautiful, bright, mixed media canvas by fellow artist Lisa Fulmer. I began by conditioning and rolling some white Primo Sculpey to a setting number 4 on the clay machine. I'm going to use a sponge to apply pan pastels to the surface. I am starting with this orange, and I'm going to just randomly make spots of it over the surface of that clay sheet. Next, I'm doing the same procedure with this violet purple pan pastel, and I'm going to just apply it in the areas where the orange isn't. Again, this is totally random. It's okay if some of it overlaps the other, etc. Then repeat with permanent green, again just here and there to add some of that color as an accent. Now we move to Hansa yellow and do the same thing. I'm going to add some spots of bright yellow green over the surface here and there. And lastly, just some very small touches here and there of permanent red. Next, it's time to add some of our details. I'm using DecoArt Americana Multi-Surface Satin in deep turquoise and this Spiral Swirl silkscreen from Create Along. I'm just going to place it orange side down onto the surface of the clay sheet and apply some of that deep turquoise paint. I'm only doing this in small sections here and there on the surface, so I'm not going to silkscreen the entire design onto the background. Be sure to wash your silkscreen thoroughly so that it'll be ready to reuse next time. Once that layer's dry, I'm using this Red Hot paint and the Cracked Roses silkscreen from Create Along to add some touches of that pattern here and there. Once the red paint was dry, it was time to proceed, and this time I'm using the Shadows of Your Love silkscreen and Chartreuse paint. Again, just totally random here and there. We're really looking for a collage effect, much like the original collage done by Lisa Fulmer. Once the silk screening was all dry, I moved on and used some DecoArt Americana Titanium White, and I'm going to use a small round sponge dauber to add spots to the surface. You can also use a paintbrush and just make spots. Again, mimicking that original collage pattern, I'm using some dioxazine purple paint and a larger sponge dauber to make spots randomly. Next, I used turf green acrylic paint and a small paintbrush to just make some slashes of that green here and there over the surface. Once all of the paint was dry again, it was time to move on to the next layer of color, and I'm using some pumpkin patch orange paint and a much larger sponge dauber to add some touches of that over the surface. My next step was to apply the black details using a polymer trading coin stencil from Create Along. This is from set number 1, and some black tie acrylic paint. And I'm just going to sponge it on and make touches of that pattern here and there randomly over the surface. Once all of the layers were dry, it was time to move on and make the leaves. I'm using 2 sizes of sort of petal-shaped cutters, but you could also use a craft knife and hand cut your leaves to any size you'd wish. And here are our individual leaves ready to be placed on their colorful backgrounds. Next, I conditioned and rolled some orange, green, and cadmium red hue Primo Sculpey to a setting number 6 on my clay machine. I'm making fairly thin sheets if you're hand rolling. Next, the individual leaves were placed onto those different colored clay sheets. You do want to leave enough space around them so that you can cut out the different pieces and have a border of the color beneath. Once you have them all in place, you just take your craft knife and cut around them, leaving a little bit of a border because you want that color to show and frame each of your collage leaves. Continue until all of your different leaves are cut out with borders beneath them. For the base of the veneer itself, I'm using Primo Sculpey in black, which I've conditioned and rolled to a setting number 4. Using Lisa's original mixed media canvas as a guide, I placed the different size leaves onto the black clay sheet and made sure to allow enough space to add some white stems here and there. To make those white stems, I extruded some white clay using a small rectangular disc, but you could also just roll a sheet and cut some strips. Add them here and there to create stems for your leaf clusters. I chose to combine my colorful leaves veneer with some black textured clay. I used my Cindy's Peacock's texture mat from Create Along to add the texture, and I've made some pendants with it, but it would also be great for polymer trading coins. For more inspiration, join our Polymer Clay Tribe Facebook page. Over 17,000 members sharing projects every day. For lots more creative polymer clay ideas, visit the Polymer Clay TV blog.